The way to generate power in a tennis serve is actually quite different than it seems. Oftentimes it seems when you watch tennis players that they hit the ball hard, that they have to be strong, that they really have to overcome the resistance of the ball, and that there's a lot of power involved and a lot of tension. But in reality, we operate with different principles. And I want to explain the most important principle of generating power, and that's momentum. So if I swing this total serve, it's called total serve, you can Google it, and you will see that I can move the balls at the end of the total serve with very little movement. So all I'm doing is I'm creating an impulse. I'm just creating a little impulse, and I'm amplifying the momentum of this pendulum. You can see it as a pendulum. And so if I don't do anything, then the pendulum will eventually stop because it's not receiving any energy. But if I just amplify it a little bit, and as you can see, I don't even have to use my arm, I can use my body from the core, I can actually supply energy and amplify this momentum. And if I do it a little bit more, I can swing the total serve around like this. But if you watch my arm, you can see that I'm doing very little. I'm not doing a lot of work, and it's quite effortless to swing these balls around. That's because I can feel their momentum, and when I feel their momentum, I can amplify it. And so that is the process of generating force in a tennis serve. So when we have the racket in hand, you can try this same exercise, is to actually feel and realize what is momentum. And so momentum is basically the racket's speed that we can amplify. And so we can amplify it with a little impulse of energy. So rather than me moving the racket this way and that way with my muscles, so this is now brute strength. So now I'm moving the racket like this, as you can see, in a similar way as before, but now I'm doing all the work because I'm not using the racket's momentum. If I'm using the racket's momentum, then this is quite effortless. And yet I can still make the racket move in the same way. And so when you're watching tennis serves and you're analyzing technique, there are a lot of things that happen in a serve that the player doesn't actually do with the arm. It's just a consequence of a momentum. And basically there are just two momentums in the serve. The first one is the backward momentum, which happens in front of the body. So from this angle, this is the first momentum. And we use this momentum to help us with the toss and to help us with the backswing. So when you see a tennis player and their arm going backward, the question is, are they moving their arm backward or are they using the racket's momentum? And many times, really good players, they actually use the momentum of the racket. And then the next momentum that happens is when the racket comes behind the body. And so the racket begins another momentum when it's falling. And so what we have to do is we have to amplify this momentum again, and we amplify it in two ways. The first way is the same as here, so we just apply a little impulse of energy in the same direction. So when the racket is falling here behind me, I can feel its momentum and I will amplify its momentum. And the second way how to amplify the momentum is by quick rotation. So when I rotate quickly, I will amplify this momentum and I will accelerate the racket. That does not mean that I move my arm here in the same way as I'm not moving the racket left and right with my hand, but I'm using the momentum. So I'm just supplying a little bit of energy. So in the same way, when the racket is behind me, I'm just supplying an impulse of energy to change the direction of this momentum, but I'm still accelerating the momentum. So a tennis serve is nothing else than two momentums and one turn. So I'm creating a momentum backward and I'm amplifying it, not too much, otherwise it will mess up my toss. So I'm just doing this one more gently. And then I'm feeling the momentum of the racket drop behind me and I'm accelerating it. And that's how I achieve really high racket head speed quite effortlessly. Rather than doing everything myself, because you might try to copy the technique and you're trying to move the racket in the correct way. but then you're doing everything yourself and you're not using the power of momentum, and that's why the serve is locked and it requires a lot of effort and the ball doesn't actually go that fast. So in order to unlock your serve and basically unlock your potential on the serve, you have to use the principles of momentum. And so again, the momentum is simply like a pendulum where you're trying to amplify the energy that this pendulum has. And it's best that you try to amplify this energy from the core of your body and not just from your hand. So this would be amplifying just with my hand, and this would be amplifying with my body. And so that's how I use my whole body to transfer the energy from the body into the racket. And so when I'm going into the backswing, I'm already using my full body. I'm not isolating my arms in some certain technique, but I'm using my whole body to create momentum. And then I can feel another momentum here happening, and I will just accelerate the racket again using my whole body. And a lot of things will happen naturally without actually trying to do some special technique like twisting or coiling or putting my hip out and things like that. A lot of that will happen naturally just because you will try to accelerate the racket in the most natural way, and that's how the body will respond. The foundation of your serve then is just using the momentums, using the backward momentum and then transferring into the forward momentum, and then this is the base upon which you will try to use simple elements or small elements of technique and actually polish it or sculpt it and do little things. But don't forget to use the momentums, because otherwise you're going to lock your serve and it's just going to be a sequence of movements that will actually not transfer energy effortlessly through your body into the racket head. So again, it's an effortless swing where you combine two momentums, the backward and then the forward one, and you're trying to accelerate the momentum of your racket head and simply letting go. One more tip, do not aim into the court, because you're doing a very complex operation that your brain has to learn now. So when you're learning this, you have to feel it, what it means to accelerate, what it means to create momentum, what it means to amplify the momentum, and then simply hit some balls and let the balls fly so that you feel what the transfer of energy actually means and how all this momentum is transferred into the ball. And in time you will start aiming into the court, but keep in mind that aiming into the court is dangerous when it comes to an unlocked serve, a free-flowing serve, because we want to control the racket head and we will start locking the wrist, because you might start trying to hit the ball in this very small area. And so make sure that you keep swinging freely and combine aiming into the court with a free swing where you're just trying to develop really good energy transfer from your body into the racket head.